Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know at the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF and Zidua, the most trusted name in herbicides, providing Ohio soybean and corn acres with up to 2 weeks more residual activity and broad-spectrum weed control. I'm Joe Everett. A quick calendar reminder, Ritchie Brothers is having a large auction on March 26. Visit rbauction.com for complete details. News now at ohioagnet.com. It's National Agriculture Day, and it's also National Nutrition Month, and the rising nitrogen prices and implications for corn fertility. Today's news feed is sponsored by Tempti, now open, factory direct in Sydney, Ohio. From trailer sales to parts and trailer service, our team is ready to keep you moving. Stop in today or call 326-206-2062. Today we celebrate National Ag Day with the theme this year, Together We Grow, as the industry also celebrates 250 years of progress in agriculture. Events will take place in Washington, D.C., bringing together farm leaders, commodity groups, and a core group of college students representing organizations like FFA, 4-H, and AFA. Organizers say it's a chance to highlight the future of agriculture with students stepping into advocacy roles and sharing their vision for the industry. And that future goes well beyond the farm, covering careers in science, food safety, conservation, and more. Now in its 53rd year, National Ag Day aims to remind Americans just how much agriculture impacts everyday life, from the food we eat to the fuel we use, and encourages a deeper appreciation for the industry's role in the economy and the future workforce. To learn more, you can find this full article today at ohioagnet.com. Now we turn to Brianna Smith for an update on beef outreach and Nutrition Month.
Joining me today is Anna Guest. She's the nutritionist for the Ohio Beef Council. Anna, tell me a little bit about how beef fits into a healthy diet.
Well, beef is a lean protein and it's very nutrient dense. So what that means is that you get a lot of nutrition in a small package. So 3 ounces of beef gives you more than 10% of your daily servings of vitamins, minerals, and protein.
And this is a special month to be talking about nutrition, right? Can you tell me what this month is?
Yes, so March is National Nutrition Month. So as registered dietitian, we celebrate nutrition all year long. But in March, we love to really emphasize what we can do to bring healthy, nutritious meals to our plates and talk about them with our community.
So let's talk a little bit about where you kind of are doing a lot of your work. So I know Ohio Beef Council does a lot of outreach. Talk to me about some of the places that you've been already in the last year or so.
So we do a lot of outreach with other healthcare professionals. So I like to talk to doctors, pediatricians, nurses, physician assistants about beef's role in a healthy diet. They spend a lot of time with patients that have concerns about health, and so my job is to make sure they have the answers to questions, especially about agriculture and beef and how that all fits into a healthy diet. I also do a lot of outreach with schools. So for school food service professionals that have questions about putting beef on a school menu, I'm their go-to resource. We also have our Beef in the Classroom grant for teachers that want to teach about beef in their classroom. And so I help oversee that grant program to make sure that there's funding for teachers that want to have hands-on lessons that involve cooking beef in the classroom.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Anna. Appreciate you. Again, Anna Guest, she's a registered dietitian with the Ohio Beef Council.
Hey, thanks, Brianna, for that update. Well, tensions in the Middle East are starting to impact the fertilizer market as military action involving Iran has led to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, a key shipping route for about a quarter of the world's nitrogen supply. That's pushing prices higher just as farmers head into planting season. Over the past couple of weeks, urea prices have jumped 20 to 25%, with liquid nitrogen also seeing solid gains. That's creating more volatility and forcing growers to rethink nitrogen strategies. Experts say this could mean adjusting application rates or switching products to stay economical. Tools like the corn nitrogen rate calculator can help fine-tune decisions based on the current fertilizer and corn prices. With higher input costs and tighter margins, managing nitrogen efficiency will be key this spring. For more information, you can find this article at ohioagnet.com. Now we check in for an update on a program funded by the Ohio Soybean Checkoff. Here's Dusty Sonnenberg.
Science for Success, just one of many programs funded by the Ohio Soybean Checkoff. Dr. Laura Lindsay, OSU Extension soybean and small grain specialist, tells us more.
Science for Success was started in 2019, and it's a group of soybean agronomists across land-grant universities. So Ohio State is one of those, Virginia Tech is one of those, but collectively we represent about 90% of the soybean acres in the United States. And so we work together as specialists to communicate best management practices for soybeans to farmers.
Carrie Ortel, who's a soybean agronomist at Virginia Tech, tells us about one of these Science for Success projects.
This is an in-season potassium management project, and so we have two main objectives. Both are really focused on trying to provide applied recommendations that are helpful to farmers with in-season nutrient management. And so the first one is more oriented towards tissue testing, and so there's a lot of challenges associated with diagnosing potassium deficiencies in season. Sometimes we don't see the symptoms that we expect to see, and so we rely on tissue testing. But tissue testing is very easy to make a mistake in, and so trying to provide some increased education on collecting a good sample and interpreting it correctly is really where we fall with this objective.
Now, Dr. Lindsay says this research can have real implications here in the Buckeye State.
Science for Success, we want to have local research for our farmers, but also have those trials replicated across state lines to really pull things together. So she's leading the project, and then in Ohio, we're lucky to have funding from Ohio Soybean Council to do one of the locations. We did one location last year. We'll repeat it again this year in the growing season. So I'll have 2 site years of data, 2 environments, but collectively Carrie's going to have a lot more. Then we can pull all that data together for a national recommendation.
To learn more about this research or get the entire conversation with Dr. Laura Lindsay and Carrie Ortel, check out the latest episode of the Ohio Field Leader Podcast. It's available now at ohioagnet.com.
Hey, thanks, Dusty, for that update. It's now time for today's weather, which is brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's your forecast.
Good sunshine again for your Tuesday. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag Weather Update. We're not quite as cold as yesterday. Sunshine helping with that. And winds are turning to the south and southwest here later this afternoon. That's ahead of a significant warm-up tomorrow. Temperatures really race higher. Once again, sunshine dominates. We've got 2 very nice days here, all things considered. Thursday, a few hit-and-miss scattered showers over southwestern Ohio early on, but everything's done by midday. Clouds will be increasing through the rest of the day, and that's ahead of a frontal boundary that comes through overnight Thursday night through Friday. Anywhere from a quarter to 1 inch of rain likely over 100% of the Buckeye State. Behind that front, we are chilly for the balance of Friday afternoon, for Saturday, and I think for early Sunday. Temperatures moderate Sunday late, and then we kick off next week, which looks rather active. No rain coming on Monday, but several rain events Tuesday through the following weekend. I'm Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Coming up next, Ty Higgins gets an update from Luke Crumley with the Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association here on the Ohio AgNet.
Looking for heavy equipment but don't know where to buy? Purple Wave Auction has you covered. Always online and always no reserve. It's your destination for construction or ag equipment ready to work. We even sell semis, trailers, and fleet equipment for your operation. Best part? It's free to join. Head to purplewave.com. That's purplewave.com. Sign up for a free account and start bidding today. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins. In today's featured audio, I visit with Luke Crumley with Ohio Corn and Wheat. I spent the majority of last week with him and members of the organization in Washington, D.C. for their 2026 mission. And I asked him what the current mood is in the nation's capital as we bring all the challenges of agriculture to lawmakers.
Ty, you heard me tell our advocates that we really have to place a high priority right now on treating the people we're meeting with as human beings first, because out here right now, these young congressional staffers and the members that they work for are facing a lot of challenges. We have parts of the government that are still shut down. We have troops actively deployed in an ongoing kinetic fight right now. And on top of all that, they have the normal work of appropriations and, addressing key issues like ours, like E15 and USMCA renewal. And that's a lot of stress. I would say that right now, the feeling out here is a little strained. There's that constant churn of partisanship, right? It's an election year, but when you have all of that on top of these bigger external factors that they're facing, it's a really challenging mood out here right now.
You know where else it's strained? On the farm.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're here to talk about some of the things that might alleviate some of that stress back home with our farmers. E15, of course, something that we're really been focusing on for a long time, but we're really close to getting it across the finish line. What can you tell us about where year-round E15 is at this point?
You know, folks hear us talk about E15 all the time because we have to carry that issue. But let's back up first, because the reality is what we're out here talking about is market demand for America's agricultural products. And E15 has a chance to be the leading edge of a new way of thinking about how government policy can help the farm by putting an emphasis on opening domestic and international markets. E15 is one piece of the pie. We're also talking USMCA. We're talking about Farm Bill programs to support the entire farm economy. But E15 right now, where it is in that process, we are as close as we've ever been. A little over a month ago, the Speaker of the House said we're going to have a task force that's going to release a proposal to the House so that we can finally put this issue to bed. And we're going to bring all the stakeholders together. Well, the deadline for that was February 15th, 31 days ago by my count today. So we're 31 days past the Speaker's self-imposed deadline for action on this bill. What we're doing right now is going to our Ohio delegation, letting them know we need your voice to make sure it gets released, it gets to the floor, and then we're going to need your vote, too, to make sure it gets across the finish line in the House so we can start that important work of doing the same in the Senate.
Once it does get through, once we get year-round E15 across that finish line, what's the next step? We're hearing about the process of getting it there, but what happens as far as making sure the consumer has access to it, and how long does that take?
Well, and there's not going to be a happy answer here. It's going to take more work, right? We're going to have to work with those retailers to incorporate higher blends of ethanol into their sales structure. Some are poised to do so right away. All they're waiting on is this regulatory fix to get out of the way and let the market do its thing. That's what we want. That's what they want. That's why this is such a layup for Congress. But once we get E15 language done legislatively, then it's on us to continue working with retailers and opening up those markets. But here's the really good news. An E15 national fix right now takes care of problems in California, the only state in the union that does not have access to E15 right now. This bill would fix that, and E15 could be really easy in California to lower gas prices. And I would think that there would be an incentive right now for anyone in a state like California to drive down costs. So as we look at addressing infrastructure issues, you know, there's another bill out there called the Ethanol for America Act that would allow E15 to run through existing E10 infrastructure. Those are additional fixes that we have to look at and work with states across the board to make sure consumers have access as soon as possible.
Right now we have a corn carryover of 2.5 billion bushels, and if E15 is passed year-round, that will gobble up all of that carryover.
Yes.
And really help America's farmers and Ohio's farmers in particular here with Ohio Corn and Wheat and Luke Crumbley in front of the nation's capital here in D.C. for their mission trip. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ty.
Hey, thanks, Ty, for that update. A quick reminder, Ohio AgNet's Feeding Farmers is going statewide, and winners will be chosen soon for a visit from Ohio AgNet with free lunch for your farm, family, and crew. Visit ohioagnet.com/feedingfarmers to enter. Brought to you by Ag Revolution, Paradise Energy Solutions, and the Ohio AgNet. It's now time for today's market analysis, which is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to bring you the brand new soybean crush facility to Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Learn more about marketing your soybeans with LDC at 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished the day mixed, a little bit higher on soybeans and soybean oil, lower corn and wheat. The markets were mixed amid uncertainty of what President Trump is going to be doing. A social media post earlier yesterday morning implied that the strikes on Iran might be paused for a good 5 days or so because of, well, progress, of course, on ending the hostilities. However, Iran's news agency indicated that there was no direct communication between the Iranian government and the U.S. or its intermediaries. So even though crude oil was down on the day yesterday, no one is for sure whether this kind of pause in the hostilities is going to hold at all. And definitely we are going to be seeing, I think, some reaction through the rest of this week if we end up having to back away from that pause. Managed money yesterday sold contracts of wheat and corn, bought beans. I'm Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Now let's take a look at your markets, brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. May corn 461 1/4, up 1 3/4. July corn trading up 1 1/4 to 471 3/4. As we turn to soybeans, May 1162 down 1 1/2. July soybeans 1177 1/2 down 1 1/2. And July wheat, 605 1/4, up 5 1/4. As we turn to livestock from yesterday's close, April live cattle 235.30, up $1.25. June live cattle 234.65, up $1.22. April lean hogs 90.80, down 47 cents, and April feeder cattle 352.47, up $1.30. This is the Ohio AgNet.